Morning. The June 24th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. In the interest of promoting health and safety as we continue to deal with the coronavirus pandemic, the Board of Estimates continue to be streamed live virtually. Madam Comptroller, are there any corrections, additions, or deferrals on the agenda? Madam Comptroller, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right, thank you. Good morning. No additional protests were received for today's meeting. We're moving to the non-routine, page 79, items 3 and 4. Please note the following abstentions for our Honorable Mayor Young. Pages 15 and 16, items 1 and 2, pages 35 and 36, and pages 66 through 68. Please note the following abstentions for Honorable President Scott. Pages 15 and 16, items 1 and 2, and pages 66 through 68. Please note the following abstentions for Honorable Comptroller Pratt. Page 8, page 9, pages 35 and 36, item 4. Please note the following abstention for Acting City Solicitor Moore, page 65. And please note for Acting Director of Public Works, Garbach has no abstentions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Comptroller. I would direct the board members' attention to the memorandum from my office dated June 22nd, 2020, identify matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with any corrections and additions that have been noted by the Comptroller. To be considered as routine agenda items. I will entertain a motion to approve all the items contained on the routine agenda.
Mr. President, good morning. I move approval of all of the items on the routine agenda.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. The motion carries. The routine agenda items have been adopted. The first item on the non-routine agenda can be found on page 79, item 1, recommendations for contract awards, 7DC 7778, drainage repairs and improvement at various locations. We've received protests on this item. We will hear from Civil Construction LLC, then from Metra Industries LLC, and then we will follow up with the agencies. Please state your name and start your protest.
Steve Diab.
Stephen Diaslaki, Metra Industries.
Yes, sir. The floor is yours.
Did you say that Civil would start the conversation or Metra Industries?
Civil first.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Anyone from Civil present? Guess not. We will move to Metra Industries.
Hello?
Mr. President, may I make a motion at this point, given that Civil Construction LLC is not present?
Hello?
Yes.
I don't know. Are we present? Do you hear us?
Oh, yes, we can hear you. Please state your name for the record.
Okay, my name is Mehdi Mershahi. The first is spelled Mehdi, and my last name is Mershahi, Mirshahhi. And I am the Executive Vice President of Civil Construction.
Yes, sir. Go ahead with the protest.
Okay, as I understand, we have been selected as a lower bidder, so we are entitled to having the contract.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for him? All right, we will move on to the next portion of the protest. Stephen, I believe you're next. You're muted, sir.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. I'm representing Metra Industries. At the time of the bid, we were the apparent low bidder at $3,354,775, and we were lower by over $600,000.
Excuse me, I don't mean to be rude, but we need to know your name and
You have
and
to
your role.
state your name for the record. We've been trying to state your name for the record, please.
I apologize. My name is Stephen Diaslaki, and I am the Vice President of Administration for Metra Industries.
Continue.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you very much. At the time of bid, we were approximately $600,000 lower than the bid for civil construction. We thought that the award was going to be made to us. The other day, we were advised that this board meeting would allow us to present why we feel that this bid should be awarded to us. First and foremost, I would like to call to everyone's attention that I have copies of the paperwork submitted by Civil Construction, writing in an a WBE named Acorn Supply and Distributing. And they're written in for a work category that is not the work category allowed for Acorn Construction. Acorn Construction is qualified to do construction equipment and materials, period, and non-manufacturing supplier, period, quote unquote. I'm reading it from the published paperwork online, and I'm sorry, lack of technology, but this is the paperwork that was printed online that I just read from verbatim. Contrary to the items that Acorn is qualified to do work for, Civil wrote them in as a material supplier. So this is in contradiction to what Acorn Supply is allowed to perform the job. In addition to that, Civil wrote Acorn Supply and Distributing in for 1% of the bid amount, yet they indicated a dollar value of $39,500. If you did the arithmetic for Acorn's 1%, it would not come to $39,500. In fact, it would come to $39,573.35. Therefore, an insufficient amount was wrote in for Acorn. Civil wrote in less than the amount that they had to write in based on the 1%. I would also like to speak to the protest letter itself that Metra Industries had submitted with respect to responding to Baltimore City about Metra's own MBE and WBE forms. The city raised an issue about a form that we had submitted to the city for R&R, which was our WBE subcontractor that we had written in for our bid. Metra submitted a clean form for R&R with no changes, no erasures, no crossouts. It was intact 100%. It was submitted to the city. It was called to our attention that there may have been a duplicate form of that, a mimeograph or a photocopy that was identical to the form that Metra had submitted, with the one exception that there was an uninitialed clerical change made to that. The two forms agree with one another completely. The original form is 100% intact. There's a duplicate form that mirrors the original form completely with one cross out on it. Both forms say the exact same thing. We have on this call right now, on this video conference, the subcontractor R&R. R&R agrees that both forms are identical and they are willing to honor either of the forms because they state the exact same dollar amount, the exact same percentage. In fact, they state the exact same thing from top to bottom on that form. Apparently, one of the forms had a mistake that was corrected in favor of the correct form. As everyone, I believe, knows, the city requires an original and a duplicate to be submitted, and therein lies the only question with regard to that form that was raised to Metra's attention a while ago, that there was one cosmetic difference from one form to the other, and it's I try to equate it to being similar to if you ran a photocopy of one form through a photocopier machine, it could run a streak down the middle of the paper, and therefore, while the forms are exactly the same, there is one cosmetic difference looking at an original and a duplicate in that there was this, one cosmetic change on them. With respect to the MBE subcontractor that Metra had written in at the time of the bid, we listed AB Trucking. AB Trucking was called to our attention that their certification was not valid at the time of the bid. The bid was originally on January 8th. AB Trucking had a renewal extension period that brought them through February 29th, pending the acceptance of their application renewal, which was submitted to the city. So they were on an extension period at the time of the bid. The bid was postponed from the 8th of January till later in the month, still in January. So AB Trucking's certification extension was still in effect at the time. So we contend that AB Trucking's certification was okay at the time of bid. They are a legitimate MBE subcontractor and partner of Metra that we've used on numerous occasions for other projects. They perform superior work, and we're very happy to be an MBE, to have them as an MBE partner to Metra Industries. And on a very related note, the WBE subcontractor written in by Civil Construction that had the problems already, the Acorn Supply and Distributing Company, currently does not have a WBE certificate. Their certificate lapsed on April 2nd, 2020. Therefore, Acorn is not even considered a certified WBE at this time. And for all these reasons, I believe that it would be to the best interest of the city to award this job to Metra Industries, because otherwise the tax-paying citizens of Baltimore City will be paying over $600,000 more to another contractor who has mistakes in their bid. And on one last note, something I believe that's very critical that came to my mind just at this moment was this very same argument was made a while back where another contractor was the apparent low bidder, and that other contractor is known as R.E. Harrington on another project. R.E. Harrington had several crossouts throughout their bid submission book that were not initialed by anyone, not acknowledged by anyone. These crossouts were on the most important papers of the bid submission package, that being the proposal section itself, which indicates the price that R.E. Harrington was going to do the work. They also had crossouts on their MBE, WBE paperwork. A protest was made because they did not initial the crossouts and the changes that R.E. Harrington made. The city decided that that was a cosmetic error, just a clerical error. It had no bearing. It was not important enough to reject R.E. Harrington's bid, and therefore moved to award the job to R.E. Harrington, and in fact did award the job to R.E. Harrington, despite the fact that they had uninitialed, unacknowledged crossouts and changes all throughout their bid submission book. We have a very similar situation here where Metra was told that we had an uninitialed crossout. It was in fact initialed by Metra, it just was not initialed by the other party, and it was merely a duplicate submission that became identical to the original document submitted by Metra Industries.
Thank you, Mr. Desai. Thank you so much. I think we have one person from Metra that wants to speak, correct? Is Richard on the line?
Yes, I am.
Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. This is Richard DePietro with R&R Contracting. As Mr. Dialowski alluded to, we were in complete agreement. The amounts and wording are exact. We were in agreement of it prior to, and both signed off and continue to be signed off, and we even submitted an additional affidavit to that effect so that you'd have something in writing. And in the spirit of that, if that is the issue at hand, it would seem a bit unfair given the R.E. Harrington precedent, but also, it would be taking work away from us for something that we agreed upon prior to, during, and thereafter from the bid, and still are in agreement today. So I just ask that you take that into consideration, and thank all of you for your time and effort, especially during this, shall we say, unique time on all fronts. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we will move on to agency testimony.
To the members of the board, good morning. My name is Tanoy Houston Burgee, and I am the Chief of the Office of Contract Administration for the Department of Public Works. Today, the agency would like to award storm drain contract 777 drainage repairs and improvements at various locations to Civil Construction LLC. 5 bids were received, and after completing the bid analysis, the top 3 bids were received. Civil's bid was considered the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Although Civil's bid pricing was the 3rd lowest, the top 2, Metra and Spinelli, were considered non-compliant by MBU due to errors made on their submissions. And there are going to be 2 different issues that's going to be discussed. I'm going to discuss the first issue, and Ms. Tamara Brown, Chief of Minority Women Business Opportunity Office, will address the other. In regards to the corrections that Ms. Dislaki is referencing, if you turn on page 20, that's Exhibit D, it shows that there are crossouts. Unfortunately for him, that document was the original, that was the page that was in the original bid. My office only reviews pages that are in the original bid document submitted, which includes a crossout, and it includes 1 initial. If you look at the bottom of the page, it says both parties must initial changes. So that, and quote, it says any change to the information on the form must be initialed by both parties, meaning that 2 initials are required. On page 8, which is the page after Exhibit B, there is a clean copy. That clean copy was in the duplicate. That duplicate copy is in the controller's, is housed in the controller's office. That document is not reviewed and is not considered when analyzing bids. So as far as that particular issue, this is the reason why that my office, when we first did the analysis, that we considered it was not compliant based off of that correction. We submitted the documents to Ms. Brown's office so they can do their independent review, and they found that same finding as we did. But I do want to talk about the contract that Mr. Slacky referenced as far as the R.E. Harrington, which is another sanitary contract, storm drain contract 7771. In this case, it was a little different. What crossouts he's referencing is a schedule of prices. That page it shows a representation of the dollar amount in numerical and written word that is filled out only by the prime. The sub does not fill that portion out. It's not considered a dual page document. That document is only filled out by the prime. So if there are corrections that need to be made on that document, they can make a cross out and a initial required on that initial. But for all MBU forms and the statement of intent form, the part B, that's what we're talking about. That had these corrections on there. They are considered a two-party document, and they must have initials on both. And I will turn over to Ms. Brown to discuss the other issue.
Good morning, honorable board members. My name is Tamara Brown. I'm the chief of MBU. Thank you, Ms. Houston-Bergy, for the introduction. She is correct. The MBU documentation are two-party documents. And the documents that we received and reviewed, there were not two initials for both parties with some of the corrections. I would like to also address the certification of AB trucking that Mr. Diaslaki spoke about earlier. The Article 5, Subtitle 28 states that it is the bidder's responsibility to ensure that the MBE and WBE is certified at the time of bid opening. The bid opening date was January 15th, 2020. At the time, AB Trucking's certification expired on January 5th of 2020. On February 14th, the president, Terrell Addison of AB Trucking, contacted our office seeking an extension. At that time, our secretary did extend them until the end of February as a courtesy. However, again, it is at the time of bid opening. So they were extended on February 14th, and the copy that Mr. Dislaki is referring to with the extension was actually granted after the bid opening date. As far as I will also address Acorn, who was the WBE on the awarded party of the recommended civil construction. Acorn's certification expired on April 2nd of 2020. On April 1st of 2020, I issued a memorandum extending all certifications based on the COVID-19 response. So they are in fact certified, but on January 15th at bid opening, they were certified. I can also address Acorn as being a non-manufacturer supplier. The code actually says that if they are a manufacturer's representative or have a warehouse where they store goods, then there's 100% participation is allowed. I did receive back in 2019 during another review an email from the president of Acorn Supply where I asked, are you a manufacturer of goods? They are not. Are you a manufacturer's representative? And yes, they are for several manufacturers. And I also have a list of their supplies. They have a 640 square foot warehouse where they store some construction supplies. So that is what helped us determine, based on some communication we had with them on a previous contract, that they were in fact entitled to the 100% participation. So Mr. Dislaki is not correct there. So our office reviews the documentation that we received from the agency. We did that and we made our determination based on the documentation in Article 5, Subtitle 28. We do not recommend award. We just simply find them compliant or non-compliant with Article 5, Subtitle 28. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from board members? All right. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. President and Honorable Board, I move that the protest be denied and that the contract be awarded to Civil Construction LLC. And I just want to say, everyone puts a lot of effort into the protests and the responses. I hope that the takeaway from this particular bid protest is the thoroughness with which the agencies and MBU review all bid submissions. When Ms. Brown became chief of MBU, she, with the support of the former solicitor and myself, was very strongly encouraged and supported in being far more thorough and exacting in assessing bids and assuring compliance. And we knew that it would not always be comfortable and it would not always be well received and that there would be protests, but that office is doing exactly what Baltimore City Code and law requires. And having done that, having been thorough, having done the review, and gone through all of the steps to make sure that those that come before this board are in complete compliance, I very strongly support denial of this protest. We value everyone that works with Baltimore City, but on this one, we have to, I encourage denial of the protest and award to Civil Construction LLC. Thank you.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion is approved. This protest is denied and the item is approved. Madam Comptroller, any members of the board have anything else, other comments that they want to make?
I do not.
All right. As there's no more business before the board, we will recess until bid opening at 12 noon. We will also reconvene on July 1st, 2020. Thank you for tuning in. Please stay safe, everyone.
Good afternoon. The Board of Estimates is now in session for the receiving and opening of bids in accordance with the directives of the mayor and governor prohibiting gatherings of more than 10 people, and as part of the overall effort to limit transmission of COVID-19 virus, the COVID-19 virus, the Board of Estimates is conducting bid openings remotely. Members of the public can call in to listen to bid openings live by calling 443-984-1696 and entering access code 0817325. Board of Estimates meetings are also broadcast live on Charm TV, Channel 25, on Comcast Cable in Baltimore City. Meetings are also streamed on the internet at www.charmtvbaltimore.com/watch-live. The Board of Estimates will continue to conduct bid openings remotely while the state of emergency declared by the Mayor of Baltimore and the Governor of Maryland remains in effect. No bids are scheduled to be received today, June 24th, 2020, and there have been no addenda received for June 24th, 2020. As there is no more business before this board, it is now adjourned.
There you go.